Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Mr. Vice President, I'm going off script again, I know, but I just want to personally thank you. We've been through some stuff. We've gone through some of the most complex military operations this country's ever conducted, and your steady hand and your leadership during those was a great source of strength for me. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your character. Thank you for your selfless service. Thank you for commitment. Thank you for being a mentor to me, Mr. Vice President.
It's called the swamp. And you know what happened? And you know what I did? A big favor. I caught the swamp. I caught them all. Let's see what happens. Nobody else could have done that but me. I caught all of this corruption that was going on, and nobody else could have done it. Did I get that one right? Every 4 years, we gather on these steps to carry out the orderly and peaceful transfer of power. Today's ceremony, however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people. For too long, a small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government, while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. The forgotten men and women of our country will be forgotten no longer. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first.
This is a president of the United States who is a danger to the Republic.
America first.
He knows he's an illegitimate president.
The oath of office I take today is an oath of allegiance to all Americans.
The great Trump recovery.
America will never be a socialist country. I will fight for you with every breath in my body.
Russia, Russian, pro-Russian, Russian, Russia, Russian, 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 the Russians. Russia,
Russia, Russia.
And I will never, ever let you down.
A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
This is really the worst attack we've ever had. This is worse than Pearl Harbor. This is worse than the World Trade Center. There's never been an attack like this. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. What they're doing is using COVID to steal an election. Together, we will make America strong again. You know what it's about? Fraud, fake ballots. We will make America wealthy again. They are trying to steal the election.
Now, under the leadership of President Trump, we are fully realizing President Kennedy's prescient view of Special Operations Forces.
We will make America proud again. And watch, please, those mail-in ballots. We will make America safe again. And in millions and millions of ballots. Their vote is under what they thought they needed. They're dumping more ballots in there, okay? And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you. God bless you. If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.
Congress, the chair declares the joint session dissolved.
Good what a great start. Almost said afternoon. And you're muted, by the way. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Devolution Power Hour. It's been one of those days. How are you doing, Burning Bright?
I'm not bad today. I'm tired, but Daddy Daycare was a rousing success today. Last week, not so much.
What does rousing success look like in the Bright household?
One nap. He did one nap. He did a nap.
Good.
And that allowed me to do like 3 hours of work during the day.
He napped for 3 hours?
Yeah. He went down for 3 hours. I mean, I
That's a long nap, bro.
Yeah. I wasn't going to wake him up.
Yeah.
I'm not about that.
Leave that to Mrs. Bright.
Yeah. So he's sleeping right now. So
he'll be up for your shift later.
It's pretty great.
I have not seen Mrs. Bright in the chat yet, so
she is sleeping as well. We put them both down.
Put them both down before the show.
We're learning, yeah. So last week, Daddy Daycare did not go well, but much better this week. So
good for you,
we'll
man.
See.
Happy to hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, what do I have going on? What did I do today? Oh, I'm coaching my son's basketball team at the Y, and I had a meeting today, and it was the epitome of this meeting could have been an email. Like, you could have just sent all this stuff out. Instead, we went in and the guy just read to us everything that was in like the folder. Like, you just emailed it. Went through like the code of ethics for the YMCA. Did you know that volunteers do not get paid? Like, that was it. That he had to read that to us.
I assumed, right? Government volunteers get paid, I think, handsomely, but.
Yeah, but other than that, no. We should have a pretty good show, I think, lined up for everybody. We're going to talk some tariffs and spitball a little bit about what's going on there. An interesting story. I talked about it on the day show this morning, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper tonight because it's very devolution related. It's election related. It's a story not many people are really talking about. It's kind of a behind the curtain, behind the scenes type aspect of the larger battle, and I think it's good to dig in on that. I feel like we had more. A couple of presidential actions we might get into. I think
tariff stuff. Did you mention that?
That was the first thing I mentioned. So
okay.
Glad you're paying attention.
The reason I was muted when you started the show is because I found the moment in the clip I had watched this afternoon that discusses what we talked about before the show, and it's a good one.
Nice. I forgot what we discussed before the show.
The treasury yields and all this. Basically, Trump getting to have eat his cake and have it too.
Have your cake and eat it too.
No, that's what I usually say, and you say that's not the right saying. Now you've inverted.
Well, I just usually say the opposite because you normally say it wrong. Eat your cake and have it too.
That's why now you've been opted into saying it the correct way.
It's so funny because I got that from Ted Kaczynski.
Oh my God! All of your opinions now come from the Unabomber, man. Like you gotta find something else.
Yeah, I might have a problem, but no, it's the TV show, Manhunt the Unabomber, and the original saying is "eat your cake and have it too."
I know, but that's a dumb saying, man.
No, that's what people. Oh wait.
So I don't know what we did.
What do people normally say? How do people normally say it? I don't remember.
Have your cake and eat it too is what everybody says, and then
have
you
your cake
came
and
in
eat
with
it
the
too?
contrarian.
Yeah, but I'm right about it. Whichever side. Now I can't think about it. Whichever one I was right about. That.
Ironically, that whole little Ouroboros we just affected brilliantly. We rehearsed all this before the show. Is very similar to what financial experts are going through over the past few days as they try
are supposed to go up, right, or down, or up or down.
Yep, like the people who retroactively try to be right about all of their doomer takes on it. And I think, as we'll discuss tonight, I think, that's just the little flavoring that we're getting. That's not like the point of everything Trump's doing and Besant's doing with the financial situation, but it's a nice little added bonus to get a humiliation ritual on basically all financial experts who have learned all of their expertise from a totally fraudulent and rigged system.
Yeah, I have two buddies that work in like the financial world. One's at Raymond James, I think, and one's at, I don't even know where the other one's at. But I texted them today. I was like, "So boys, how How's these last few days been for you guys? And one of them's like, you saw me last time and I was balding, and I'm completely bald now. So it's been like weeks. But yeah,
he like rugged everybody and then rugged the rug.
And he warned everybody in the morning. He's like, it's a great time to buy, guys, because it's going up later.
Yeah,
it's like he knew it was coming.
Yeah,
we'll get there.
I mean, even that is just like a great wink and nod of him just basically telling everybody, yeah, the market has always been rigged, but now I'm the captain. I get to rig the market in either direction whenever I want.
Oh, it's so funny. But yeah, we'll get to all that, even though we just basically ruined the whole show. So that was fun. But whatever. One housekeeping item. Then we have a lot of sponsors tonight, so that's exciting. But we'll do one housekeeping item for the GART. And is Miss Bright in the chat? 'Cause I'm always afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing.
Apparently.
Oh.
No, I think we're good actually with the things we've been saying about GART, or she just hasn't noticed.
We'll hear about it if we're wrong. So we'll talk about this. GART Plymouth, guys, is coming up. And if you haven't yet, I'd encourage you to get your tickets. We do have tickets available, and we did decide to put single-day tickets on sale. So those are available right now. And also virtual tickets to Plymouth is available right now. And tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern is going to be our first exclusive ticket holder live stream. And so if you want to watch that and participate with the host of that show, you got to have your tickets. Another benefit here is not only do you get access to the exclusive GART chat to interact with other ticket holders. Not only do you get behind the scenes photos and videos, which Jordan Sather. What?
I said of Ghost mostly.
Of Ghost mostly. But Jordan Sather said he's not going to have his booth there this time because he wants to focus on the video stuff. So you will we'll make sure that he posts more behind the scenes stuff for us. But then on top of that, you get to ask the panel questions. But also tomorrow, with your link to the exclusive ticket holder live stream, you will get the link to purchase Deadwood tickets. And it's not for a while, August yet, but I know that's going to be a hot commodity. A lot of people are planning on going to Deadwood. And if you want to get the earliest access possible, you got to have your GART Plymouth tickets. So get on it. Tomorrow's the deadline, essentially. Well, not really the deadline, but
damn straight
for all the early bird stuff.
Yeah.
All right, sponsors. Who we got first? Yeah, Field of Greens, Brickhouse Nutrition coming in clutch with 2 of them tonight.
They must have thought we looked unhealthy, sallow, even.
Maybe you. Look at that pale skin. Yeah. Do you guys even have sun in like Massachusetts?
We haven't in months. This has been one of the worst for a not super snowy winter. This has been probably the worst weather we've had for a span of 6 months.
What kind of snow do you get out that way? Is it a lot?
We can get pretty big ocean effect storms, but
what does that mean?
Not in recent. Like, we don't get frequent snow, I would say, but often when we get it, it'll be a foot or something like that.
Somebody said it looks like
it was like 40 degrees today, and it's almost mid-April. So
it was warmer here.
Yeah,
it was like 55, 60 here.
Mm-hmm.
Suck it, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Somebody said it looks like the Deadwood Hotel is already sold out. I don't know if that's 100% accurate, but it wouldn't surprise me because of how hot a commodity it is. But yeah. You might get
honestly,
access.
If we've learned anything, or if I've learned anything by proxy of Mrs. Bright learning these things, it's many of the hotels, including at Plymouth, like their software is all proprietary, like mom and pop software and stuff. And half the time she'll call them and be like, why is everybody telling me that your hotel's booked? And they're like, I don't know. So, I mean, maybe it's booked up for Deadwood. I would just say maybe give them a call because they might just be lying to you.
Yeah. Let me look into it. I just can't be on the internet and the phone at the same time. So I'll have to call you back. That's pretty much how it goes. Okay. We got Field of Greens up first, everybody. What's the unhealthiest meal or snack or whatever that you've eaten lately? Right. For me, it's probably ice cream, but your crazy schedule makes eating 5 servings of fruits and veggies almost impossible. We're human. I know I don't always eat healthy with all the kids running around and whatnot. That's why doctors created Field of Greens. A delicious glass of Field of Greens daily is like a nutritional armor for the body. We call it the diet insurance. Each fruit and vegetable was doctor selected for a specific health benefit. There's a heart health group, lungs and kidney groups, metabolism, even healthy weight. I love the energy I get with Field of Greens, but most of all, I love the confidence that even if I have a cheat day, like a burger or something, covers me, got me covered, got my diet insurance. I can enjoy it guilt-free because of Field of Greens It's nutrition my body needs daily, and your only Field of Greens makes you this better health promise. Your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Let me get you started with a 20% discount on your first order. Use code JOHN at fieldofgreens.com. That's code JOHN, fieldofgreens.com. Changed up the ad read. The script on that one threw me off a little bit. I've like the rest of them like memorized.
OGs.
What was that?
One of the OG sponsors.
Yeah, it sure is. Okay, one more sponsor, and then we'll get to the tariff discussion first. We got Save Pulse. Today's show is sponsored by Save Pulse. At Save Pulse, we are dedicated to keeping you and your family healthy with top-quality medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine at unbeatable prices. The streamlined ordering process makes it easy to stock up on health essentials. And now with exciting news about fenbendazole showing promise in cancer research, we're proud to offer this alongside the antibiotics and viral care meds. Don't wait. Prepare for any health scenario today. Get your supply and stay ahead of the curve with Save Pulse. Now you can save even more. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds. Use promo code SAVEHEALTH at checkout to get a 20% discount on orders over $100. And actually, you know what? Before we even get to any of the content, there is something I did want to mention. Got news today, and I'm not good at this stuff, so I'm just going to preface it with that. It's not easy to talk about this stuff either. But Badlands, you know, we're a family. We've met many of the people that are in our chat right now. Recognize the names for sure, even if you haven't been to a conference. But when people come to the conference, you really get to experience what it's like to be part of the Badlands family. And unfortunately, one of our Badlanders passed away, and it's Beth Schweier. She was actually at the first Threadfest we did. She did that big painting that we gave away, and she's been to many of the GARTs. She had cancer. She had, I believe it was in remission, and she had tickets to, last time I saw her was at Myrtle Beach. She had tickets to Vegas, and she wasn't doing well. She had to cancel pretty shortly before the conference started, and kind of figured things weren't going well. But she was a loved member of the Badlands family, and she will be missed. So prayers up to her, prayers up to her family. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say, but never easy.
It's obviously sad when anybody passes unexpectedly, especially, but I think she just had really great positive energy. I didn't know her very well. I just knew her from introducing herself to me at the GARTs, but just a lot of energy. And it's another one of those things too that I'm sure we've all experienced in recent years where, you know, I would be pretty shocked given the energy that she had, like not having any idea any of this was going on, right? Any of these health issues were going on. So, I think that's a credit to her. That's a credit to the positivity, the positive vibes, certainly not a doomer, just a very great presence to be around, and kind of one of those ambassadors, which a lot of people have taken it upon themselves to be a kind of ambassadors of Badlands and ambassadors of each other. And it's cool to see, but this is obviously very sad. And, it's one of those catch-22s where when a community starts organically building like this, the more and more people you're going to know, the more tragedy or heartache you're going to feel. But hey, we wouldn't have it any other way. But rest in peace. Thank you for the support. And to any of you guys who probably met her at the events, we wanted to let you guys know, because we know not everybody is in all the chats and that kind of stuff.
Private group chats, yeah. Ty just said in the chat, she was the first Badlander to know that JC and him got engaged. She's very close with a lot of Badlanders, so I know people aren't taking it very easy. And unfortunately, I have the kids when her funeral is, and I won't be able to get that covered. I won't be able to make it. But yeah, keep her in your prayers. And actually, let me find something really quick, because while we're on this, I have a link where people, if they want to like show support, and even in lieu of like donations to tonight's show, guys, there's a charity that I believe her son works at. Let me just get this pulled up here. So give me a second. I forgot to do it before the show, but I think this would be a great way to show love and support for Beth and her family. So hold for processing. Like, I'll put this link in the chat right now.
Do you know if she was in chat? What her name was? I don't know if she was in chat. Usually, people are wondering.
I probably could figure it out. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Maybe Ty can let us know.
What is that? Hold on. There's like music playing in my ear and I don't know how to turn it off. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, so it's this. If you'd like to make a donation in honor of Beth, her son Tucker is on staff at Youth with a Mission, Los Angeles. The mission is to share gospel message throughout the world. And the link here, giving.ymwamla.org. Please designate Tucker Schweier as the intended recipient. Post this in the chat here for you guys. So yeah, prayers up. And not the first Badlander we've lost. Not the last. Never easy, but yeah. It's one of the hard parts about having like such a close community that we have,
Yeah.
But yeah, is what it is. So now I don't even know how to segue from that to tariff stuff, but we shall try. And so I don't know. Do you want to? Maybe we should start with. I don't know. Do you have like any specific stories or clips you want to share?
Well, I think they'll come up organically. I got a couple things. I just think to me there are so many layers to this, and I know we've been talking about this every time we do talk about it. But the whole tariffs storyline. But I guess maybe my big macro take has been just more widespread recognition, and I would call it maybe grudging recognition by what I often refer to as the normie layers of the collective mind. There's different persuasions of what that means, of that coming to grips with the prospect that Donald Trump actually knows what he's doing, or he once more is falling ass backwards into a series of bumbling successes, right? Like that is genuinely how you mentioned kind of financial friends, and these are people, I'm even referencing people that are Trump supporters. A lot of the financial kind of alternative financial media and gurus all kind of got on the Trump train in the last few years just because the Biden administration was so insane. But these people think that Donald Trump is just this populist figurehead who is basically being piloted by the adults in the room. And over the last week and change, leading into the tariff deployment, it was all narrative. And then when, Monday, Tuesday, it turned out that it was actual, they were completely shocked. They wanted to jump off buildings. They wanted everybody to doom out. And the whole time, Trump was just saying like, yeah, actually, this is fine. This is all exactly what we intend to do. Everything's going to be good. I'm not worried about the stock market. And, I've kind of been calling Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent in the current chapter of the war. Those are like his two generals. Those are his two lieutenants. And they've all been pushing that narrative, that kind of holding that line. And I think what you saw today, I'm not saying this is going to continue. I think we're going to get extreme volatility for a while. But Trump demonstrated the wisdom in those deployments of the tariff deployments. You've got 75 countries supposedly coming to the White House and talking to them.
Let's back up a little bit. And so in case people aren't like familiar with what's going on. So Trump's focus here is to kind of like rebalance the unbalanced trade that we've been experiencing for decades. And if you look at like, if you really dig into what's been going on and how unfair the trade has been, especially even with China's a great example of this. We have been suckers essentially for decades. It's something Trump could have and kind of started to address in his first term, and then COVID hit. Remember the phase 1 trade deal and everything. But when you look at like what our politicians were doing, they're going over there and doing all these trips, paid trips, and all these corrupt dealings going on, and then China's ripping us off. And Trump said, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're going to implement tariffs. We're going to lower our taxes. We're going to have the External Revenue Service, all these things. He finally implemented it, and everybody freaks out. Everybody freaks out. Markets don't know what's going on. Congress is even like, we can't let him do this anymore. We need to like bring the tariff authority back to the Senate or Congress, whatever. They didn't want it. And then all of a sudden over the weekend, you hear these stories, like you were saying, a bunch of countries want to make a deal. A bunch of countries want to make a deal. And then today was the biggie because overnight, well, first of all, I guess it was Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember which day. Monday, maybe. China's like, okay, well, we're going to do a bigger tariff. We're going to do 34% tariff. And then Trump's like, okay, well, we're going to do 104% tariff. And then China, again, like, won't back down. But every other country's starting to bend the knee. And so he comes out with, and you know what, I'm going to read through the post from this morning from Trump because these were great. And this is where you get the signal.
Yeah.
And he was basically telling you, like, don't panic. This is a great time to move your company to the United States of America, Apple, all these other things. Make America great again. Fixing trade and tariffs is a good thing, Jamie Dimon. Be cool. Everything is going to work out well. The USA will be bigger and better than ever before. This is a great time to buy this morning. Like 13 hours ago. What time was it 13 hours ago? That would have been like 8 o'clock my time or so, roughly. Yeah. So this is all in the morning. Everybody's freaking out. And then he comes out with this post. Was it on here? Oh, where's the post about China? Oh, this one.
Yeah, there we go.
Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I'm hereby raising the tariff charged to China by the United States of America to 125%, effective immediately. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Department of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I've authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And so the one thing I'm confused about, maybe you know, is if this pause is just for these 75 countries, or is it for everybody but China?
I think it's for those 75 countries so far. It could have been everybody but China, but certainly the meat of the deployment was that China are the ones that are being targeted here. And Bessent was like smiling when he said that. He literally used the term, I'm sure a lot of people saw it today, he literally used the term trap. I think actually if you go back to Trump's feed, I think that was the clip that he posted of Bessent, was him saying China fell into Trump's trap. Before we exit this segment, I want to talk a little more about China, but I don't want to derail the Trump stuff because, it's not, I want to talk about the other side of what I think is going on with China that's a little contrarian and sovereign alliance-y. But from a
wouldn't call that
surface,
contrarian.
From a surface level perspective, though, this is brilliant in so many different ways. One of them that I didn't see many people talking about is kind of just an easy one here. But if you're the EU, if you're Canada, if you're Mexico, if you're the globalist West, or the whole rest of the world, right? A couple of days ago, the entire globe was up in arms, talking about how ridiculous this was of Trump to do, saying that it was a major betrayal, it was a horrible move, all this kind of stuff, right? Well, now all those countries basically have to get on board and say, this is a good move, what Trump did today, and we're going to play ball now, we're going to make deals. They've got to be in good relations with Trump to make these deals. Bessent specifically said, by the way, for anybody who this got lost in the noise for, he used the word bespoke and said that every single deal is going to be a bespoke custom deal tailored between the U.S. and that nation. So these are not blanket.
Trump wants to be at the table for every one of them, he said.
Yeah, exactly. And the 10% tariff thing, that's the temporary pause right now of like, that's what you get right now. And then we're going to make a deal on top of this. So that's all just to say, one of the second order effects of what he did here, this big swerve, is keep in mind every single nation in the world, especially the bigger ones, they've got their whole government narrative apparatus, the media apparatus behind them in England, in France, in India, in Japan, in Taiwan. They all have to pivot from demonizing Trump in the US on Monday and Tuesday to firmly endorsing what Trump is doing right now. And who is not doing that? China and the Chinese media, right? This is basically between the US and China. And I think that what Scott Bessent was hinting at there when he talked about the trap, I don't think he's talking just about China. I think he's also saying we just de facto got the entire rest of the world to support one side of what they didn't realize was a trade war specifically between the United States and China. Like, all these other countries are essentially afterthoughts, and now they're all de facto on the side of the United States because they're all negotiating with Trump.
This is what I talked about this morning on my show, because there's an interesting clip from Besant where he talks about we've basically got China surrounded with the tariffs, like all these countries, and I'll actually play that right now. And the reason this is so interesting is because when all these countries are coming to the table to make a deal with the United States, you know how easy it would be for part of that deal to be like, okay, we'll do this deal, we'll be great, whatever. But this is how you're going to interact with China now. Your tariffs with China, your own personal negotiations with China, that's done. You're going to do the deals we want you to do to get them to bend the knee. And this clip is great.
Our allies, Japan.
Actually, let me find a longer one. That's what she said. You missed that opportunity, man.
At a point in the not too distant future, I think we will be back to firing on all cylinders. We have the response to the countries who want to come and sit at the table rather than escalate has been overwhelming.
Yeah.
Our allies, Japan, South Korea, India, and I will note that they are all around China. We have Vietnam coming today.
Yeah.
So everyone is coming to the table, and basically China's surrounded. The other thing
That's
that I would
point.
the other thing that I would note is that a Spanish official said today that maybe Europe should look to China instead of the U.S. And I can tell you that is a losing proposition for the Europeans, because what is going to happen, and we've already seen it starting last week, that as we put up the tariff wall, China's business model is predicated on this incredibly imbalanced economy and exporting low-cost goods and subsidized goods to the rest of the world. And guess where they are going to land? On the European shores. So our allies, part of our discussion as our allies come in and talk to us, is how do we get China to rebalance? That is the big win here.
Yeah.
That the U.S. is trying to rebalance toward more manufacturing. China needs to rebalance towards more consumption. If at a point we can move to that, then we can move together.
Yeah.
If they will acknowledge this fentanyl problem. So we have to have an end to these mercantilist policies. President Trump made that a priority.
That's right.
Just as tax is a priority.
Well,
God, I find Maria annoying sometimes when she's like doing those things during the interview. But first of all, I'm your moderator in the chat. Bro, you're welcome to join the show if you want to hop in here. Second, somebody in the chat said they find it offensive when I say that's what she said. So I'm probably going to say that like 100 more times this episode.
We find it offensive when you find us offensive. So.
Yep. So how dare you? But yeah, this clip is just brilliant. Like you said about Europe, and this is all about China at the end of the day, and it's brilliant.
Except, and this is it leads me perfectly into my contrarian take, which is not that contrarian. Chris, speaking of, said this in the chat, and I was tweeting about it yesterday. He said China is the narrative avatar for the global evil twin. So, what is never going to be said super directly, you've just choice to know will be yours type of stuff, is all of this. Some of you who think that there's a sovereign alliance type of thing going on between Trump and Xi probably are really confused watching all this play out. Like, why is Trump fighting Xi? I mean, I've been talking about this for 2 years now, that since really going back to 2020, I think that this is a mutual decoupling. This is something that both of them have agreed on. If you look into the background of Xi Jinping, the very people, the very oligarchs and companies in China that are most affected by this situation are all of the ones that Xi Jinping has been trying to remove from that country and basically warring with the Chinese oligarchy. So I think there's a lot of signal when Donald Trump is dropping names like Apple and talking about who's coming back, while Scott Besant is talking about China, 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 right? So as Chris points out in the chat, I tweeted that the way I'd put it yesterday was Trump is waging war on the CCP and the globalist system it represents, which has been pillaging the East and the West for 40 years. You know, who else has been waging war on the CCP? Xi Jinping. The CCP is not China. The Soviet Union is not Russia. The US deep state is not America, right? Like this is like, it's it's so easy for us to understand that in this audience from the US perspective. If a Chinese person started talking to you about the evils of the Biden administration, but talking about the US did this, the US did that, we would be so quick to correct them, right? One of the reasons that Xi has this massive nationalist and populist appeal in China, contrary to what you'll see in Soros-funded media, is the fact that he is the Donald Trump of China. And he's been trying to decouple them from who? Apple and Samsung and all these companies that, Freudian slip, I guess, they have acted as de facto countries. These are the Prussian oligarchic systems where the market caps of a company like Apple is bigger than most countries in the world. So the decoupling is mutually beneficial. And I think you're going to see that throughout this year, really. I think this is going to be one of the macro storylines, the US versus China. And I think what you're going to get is you're going to get this face saving on both Trump's part and Xi's part, where they get to break from each other while also getting the mandate from their peoples to ride out the turbulence that comes from that decoupling. That's why it needs to be like a war. They can't go to the table and just be like, let's just stop trading with each other and just agree to do that, because there's going to be a lot of turmoil in markets, which is what we're seeing now.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what you're saying in principle, but I do have a little skeptical on some aspects. You know, when it comes to Xi, we theorize that Trump, Xi, Putin, all like they're working together. There's a lot of compelling evidence, and I'm on board with that theory. But China in particular, and even Russia, I feel like their situation is a little different than the one we have here with Trump. Like Trump is up against a lot more, especially from the narrative and the media aspect. Like he has to deal with a lot more narrative stuff than I think they have to deal with in their respective countries. And so like if Xi wanted to just decouple from Apple or whatever, I feel like he could just do it. And he wouldn't get the pushback that Trump would get from and have to go through all these narrative hoops and everything to do so. I feel like he has a lot more control over the levers of power in his country. I know there's still an good twin, but it's still a communist country, and he can do communist dictator type stuff and just, hey, you know, get out of here. Like if that was his goal, is to make it do you think his goal is to make it not communist anymore? Yeah,
eventually. And I think I actually disagree with that assertion. So I think that's
Why?
us viewing. So I did a whole China deep dive a couple years ago and kind of revisited that recently. Certainly feel more confident in my Russia takes than China. I think it's very difficult to figure out what's going on. So like, I agree with that. But a counterpoint to what you're saying is a lot of the data points I'd put into that series. Xi Jinping is the first Chinese president to be the commander-in-chief. He took that power away from the CCP. He's the first Chinese president to have a secret service that he appointed. He specifically rejected CCP protection and installed his own military protection, right? Infamously, I think this is 2022, the globalist media still doesn't, there is still not an official narrative of what happened during the Chinese National Congress in which Xi Jinping was elected to, I believe, a 5th consecutive term for the first time ever, where his predecessor, Hu Jintao, was removed in what in China was considered absolutely humiliating fashion. All of that's just to say, I actually think after diving into that stuff that Xi has been dealing with as crazy a situation over there, and in fact it might be worse, and that might be why we have not seen this like Chinese capitalist free market system over there, because one of the things that blew my mind when I was kind of researching how China functions is that the local magistrates in China, until Xi came around, actually wield way more power relative to China than even like US governors do in our country.
Yeah.
So Xi has basically been navigating, in my opinion, this battlefield where he's dealing with legacy Communist Party princes and lords, essentially. Since 2013, he's been waging what he calls a tigers and flies campaign. 10,000 arrests of CCP officials, including a lot of these magistrates and judges, etc. So I just think that it could actually be more dangerous of a situation for him, which I think is why, ironically, Trump is providing Xi a lot of narrative shielding by doing this, because I think that, or at least it hints to me that that's the case, because otherwise, to your point, Xi could have just done this stuff if he actually wanted to. And one more point on it would just be, I know that these are like little asides or whatever, but 2 quotes out of the last 24 hours. Donald Trump said, quote, "I don't blame China for what happened. I blame the people sitting right here at this desk." And then goes on a big rant about how it was Biden and everybody before him that put these deals in place. It was Hu Jintao who put these deals in place, not Xi. And then 2, Scott Bessent. What gives me a lot of confidence is the relationship between President Trump and Chairman Xi. So like, as I've said for 2 years on this show, anytime Donald Trump brings up China, he talks about like how much they've been ripping us off. Anytime he brings up Xi, he talks about what a great relationship they have and how smart of a guy he is. So I actually think it's the kind of similar to what Trump's been dealing with over here.
Yeah, I mean, I get everything you're saying. What you said at the beginning there, though, about like the military taking it over, his own Secret Service, all that stuff. I mean, to me, that's like more direct power. I think it's the narrative side of things. I have no idea like what's actually going on in China. None of us do. We're speculating, but either way, we are where we are now in terms of the narrative aspects. And I do think we're going to get what Trump wants us to get, which is the decoupling. And if that does benefit China and that is in line with their goals, which would make sense, then great. But I'm curious to see how China responds to the latest tariff. Like with Trump calling them out directly, they're the only ones that are going to have this huge tariff now. What do you think Xi's going to do? Is he going to come out and, okay, well, we're going to do 200%. And then Trump's going to come out, okay, we're going to do 250%. And we're just going to do this whole tit for tat thing all the way up to infinity. And then what happens? You might as well just that is the total decoupling of both the countries.
Yeah, and well, I don't know, obviously, but I am really interested in how that works, because if the decoupling theory, I mean, as you said, we're going to decouple, we're going to get what Trump wants. Like we all agree on that from the American side of the equation. I think Bessent has been laying that out super directly and clearly to the American media by saying China can't win an actual trade war with the United States. I was even a little bit shocked at the level, at how uneven a fight this actually is economically, because I was like, man, you're always told about how we're so levered by China. But as Bessent said, the net exporter is at a much bigger disadvantage in a trade war than the net importer, because the exporter needs the importer. The importer doesn't need the exporter, unless you're dealing with energy. Right? This is what Europe learned with Russia. If you're a net importer of Russian energy, it turns out that Russia has a lot of power over you. The only stuff that we get from China, besides some rare earth minerals, which also lets you think about the Ukraine minerals deal in a different light, is cheap bullshit on Amazon and Walmart, right? They don't give us anything that we actually require in this country. Meanwhile, we give them a lot of stuff that they require. Their entire economy is built on the American consumer, and Bessent knows this. So what is China going to do here? If this is a mutual decoupling, I think they might run to BRICS. And I think what you might, like narratively, and I think what you might get here as this storyline evolves is Trump kind of morphing this from a trade war against China to a trade war against BRICS and the countries that are going to try to backstop China. Ultimately, what does that result in? I think it results in, ironically, Xi Jinping is the one who uses this term the most of any world leader. It results in the emergence of a multipolar world, because everybody realizes that they've just got to sign good deals with each other and look out for their own interests.
Yep, which Trump's been saying since even before that 2019 UN end speech. And speaking of BRICS, Saudi Arabia's first visit. I think we have a guy from Saudi Arabia in the White House like this week or this weekend to kind of plan out the trip or something. That's going to be next month, I believe, or soon. And then he wants to meet with Russia. Like Trump is also working with all the other countries in BRICS. So if they run to BRICS, that's an interesting dynamic there too.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
I did see somebody in the chat mention this, and this was actually our next story, but talking about the bond market, and China's just going to sell off U.S. treasuries. And there's an interesting aspect to this, because we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, where we're going to go through this definitional recession, right? And import exports are going to change because of the tariffs. We're going to have less government spending, allegedly. We're going to see, I don't even remember what the other parts of the calculation, but when we're talking about with the panic from the stock market during a recession, people go to the Fed and they buy treasuries and bonds and whatever, and that will long-term lower interest rates. So even though we're going through a definitional recession, it's not going to feel like a recession because interest rates are going to go down and everything else that's going on in conjunction with this is going to be net positives. But then this article came out this morning, and it's kind of fascinating. This was before the market came back up, so I don't know. I don't know where it's at now, but the fact that it was doing this before the markets came back up is notable. And there's a couple pieces in here about the sell-off. The bond market, not a plunging stock market, has been the talk of Wall Street, with prices tumbling and yields spiking. Unusual action during times when fears of recession are growing, and fixed income is usually relied on as a safe haven from turmoil elsewhere. I'm not going to get into the specifics of the rates because I don't think anybody cares about the specifics, but
right.
Here we go. The 10-year yield has rebounded beyond where it was the day before Trump's tariffs plan was unveiled last Wednesday and is currently at the highest since February. Trump's next set of tariffs kicked in overnight, sending the rate on goods imported from China to 104%. China then retaliated early Wednesday, further embroiling the globe in trade turmoil. Trump on Wednesday hiked tariffs on China again to 125%. White House trade fight with the rest of the world has driven equity prices lower, with S&P 500 losing 12% in just 4 trading days, amid growing worries the president's policies are helping trigger a recession. And here we go. A market sell-off and rising concern that the economy is headed for a downturn would normally cause investors to flee toward bonds in a search for safety, driving yields lower. But that hasn't happened. Perhaps even more alarmingly, U.S. Treasury markets are also experiencing an incredibly aggressive sell-off as we go to press, adding to the evidence that they're losing their traditional haven status. The largest holders of treasuries are Japan, China, and the UK, the very countries the U.S. has targeted with some of the highest tariffs. This is a trade war, and if countries can use their stock of U.S. financial assets that they've accumulated, then they can create some problems. And then one more. I was watching the bond market. The bond market is very tricky, but if you look at it right now, it's beautiful. The bond market right now is beautiful. But yeah, I saw last night where people were getting a little queasy, Trump said. So he sees this going on too. But yeah, it's interesting if they're going to use, like these other countries that they have a lot of our debt. Are they going to use that as a leverage of somehow? And that's kind of where we're at. But now the market went back up. I don't know where things are at, but
yeah. And if you wanna, if you do think that this is coordinated in a good way, do you want China owning something like $1 trillion in U.S. treasuries?
Probably not.
You don't want that, right? So it's bizarre. What the reason that this really shocked the market or confused them is, as you said, this isn't normally what happens in this situation. You're getting a sell-off, and yet stocks are going up. They're bouncing back today. And if you wanted to look at this from a game theory sovereign alliance perspective or U.S. rebalancing perspective, Trump seems to be, or Besant, whoever, seems to be managing to keep things relatively stable. Remember, after the turmoil of the last week, we're basically even from where we were a few days ago. So the whole Black Monday, and then we're bouncing back. We're essentially flat. Like, not much has actually happened at the end of it all. Yep. And yet, if China and Japan, et cetera, are selling treasuries, then they're losing future leverage that they could use in these situations, which might be what Trump is referencing there. I have a clip from that guy I was listening to earlier that's about this that I thought was pretty interesting. If you want me to play it for a couple minutes.
Can we focus a little bit more on the treasuries first before we go there? Because China, I don't even think they own quite $1 trillion in treasuries, do they? I don't think they're our biggest holder.
I thought it had been 800 billion, but I might be wrong about that.
And also, I'm pretty sure like the biggest owners of our treasury debt or whatever is like ourselves, like the Social Security and funds. So if the treasury, if there's a sell-off from other countries and prices go lower, what if, like, this is a genuine question because I don't know. Not a financial advisor, not a financial analyst, but you guys should get Bitcoin and gold. Badlandsgold.com, badlandsmedia.tv/river, and the new one, badlandskrypto.com. But what is the actual effect of bond prices going lower on the intergovernmental agencies who own our bonds? You know what I mean? You have no idea.
I don't think I understand what you meant.
Okay, so if the United States Social Security Fund owns $7 trillion or something that they own in our U.S. treasuries, but because of a separate sell-off, prices go down. And no, maybe I should play the clip because then it'd make more sense because Trump is talking about refinancing our debt.
Yeah.
And this is kind of where I'm going with this. What does lower Treasury and bond prices mean in terms of us refinancing our debt in the near future?
We're cutting prices because prices got so high people couldn't live. I mean, the prices for groceries, the prices for standard groceries, standard things were going through the roof. They couldn't live. And now those prices are coming down. So call them groceries, but that's down, energy's down, and interest rates are down. Everything's down. And the interest rates, the beauty there is when we refinance debt, debt's become such a big factor in this country. We're going to start paying debt off with tariffs and other things. But it's such a big factor because the interest rate's so high. Well, now that's coming way down. So our budget's going to look a lot better because interest costs are way down. And I guess I've done that. I mean, we're cutting prices because.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I'm not a financial expert, but what I've been trying to, we've both been thinking about Treasury stuff a lot lately, Treasury yields and bonds. So what seems to be going on.
That's our debt.
Yeah. And what seems to be going on here is the Treasuries are selling off, which is causing a spike in the yield. It's causing a spike in Treasury bond interest rates. And as we had talked about the last couple of weeks, you would think that we want the opposite, right? You'd think Donald Trump wants the opposite because, to put it simply again, he wants to refinance the U.S. debt, as he just said there. Obviously, you don't refinance unless you have lower interest rates. And that's not happening right now.
And it's weird that it's not happening because of how uncertain the market is. It's weird that people aren't going to the Treasury.
Yeah, so I think, and this commentator that I was going to play as well, kind of talks around this a little bit, but a couple of weeks ago, I think I was saying, I think we are looking at a speculative attack on the Federal Reserve, and ironically, the Federal Reserve is going to be forced to participate in the speculative attack on themselves. So to set this out, I think it's actually huge with the Treasuries, because as you said, this is not what we want in this situation for a refinancing, right? We've got Treasuries being sold off. Now, if China is actually the ones that are forcing the sell-off, this could be Xi helping Donald Trump put the Federal Reserve in a pincer move. So basically, what this means is if Treasury yields are going up, but Donald Trump needs them to come down, who is the only entity with the power to force that to happen if the market is not forcing that to happen? The Federal Reserve. The only possible way, and they don't directly lever the yields on Treasury bonds, but this is the Federal Reserve makes the market, right? They lower the Fed funds rate, yields on Treasuries are going to go down. So I think what's going on here is Trump is trapping the Fed into cutting rates. Ironically, while this is what we laid out 2 weeks ago. We just didn't know how it was going to happen. Ironically, Trump is going to have a situation once the turbulence is over, and I don't know how long that is. I don't know if that's weeks. I don't know if it's months. I believe, though, that the second half of the year, for the first time ever, we are going to have a stock market that is surging to record highs, and we're going to have bonds going up as well. So we're going to have safe haven assets going up, and we're going to have the stock market going up. So we're going to have Main Street going up at the same time as Wall Street, which is not supposed to happen. That genuinely doesn't happen. And who does it screw? I think it screws the Federal Reserve, because they're going to have to blink and they're going to have to do exactly what they didn't want to do for Trump, which is cut interest rates and juice his economy, all while he's transitioning that economy back to the things that are going to make the bedrock of the country way better. Typically, when you cut interest rates, you end up with this huge stock market bubble. So are we going to get a rising stock market, but no bubble this time because Main Street is not going to be leveraged?
That's interesting.
So maybe when Trump is saying Wall Street is like, what is going on with treasuries, and me being retarded about what this stuff even is, I'm like, this doesn't seem like it should be the way things happen. So when Trump is then saying yeah, it's pretty beautiful to see what's going on here, Is Besant talking about more than that when he says, yeah, we got him trapped? Who is he talking about?
Another interesting aspect to this. Yeah. One more clip I want to show, and then we can play your guys' clip. Another Besant comment when he was on Tucker. So think about in that article we read, typically the Treasury is a safe haven for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Listen to what Besson said on Tucker the other day.
That was a great interview, by the way.
Yeah.
Why is gold moving around the world in such huge quantities right now?
Well, a couple of things. It's moving. Physically, it's moving because of potential tariffs here. So, like, it was unclear whether we were going to exempt gold from tariffs, which I believe we have. So there was a big move out of vaults in Switzerland.
Do you remember that? Like a month and a half ago, there's that story.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we still haven't gone to check Fort Knox. So what the hell are we doing there? Why haven't we done that? What was the point of that story for a week? Everybody freaking out, and then we haven't even done it. But there's a story of all this gold coming from overseas because of potential tariffs that were coming. And then we get all this gold here, and now it's exempt. So it moved here for no reason, quote unquote.
Right.
But anyway, one more comment coming from Besson that I want to get to.
And out of vaults in London to get it into New York. And look, that there are a lot of different stores of value over time. Bitcoin's becoming a store of value. Gold has historically been a store of value. I think what's interesting is, where do we see the gold demand coming from? A huge amount is from China.
Yes.
Where, they, as I said, they're in the middle of an economic recession/depression. People don't trust the Chinese currency because they have capital controls. There are 1.4 billion Chinese who all want to get their money out, and they won't let them. They will let them buy gold.
I mean, that's an interesting aspect to this too.
You know what that makes me think of as well is there are harebrained theories in the Bitcoin community, one of which has been forwarded by Michael Saylor himself, that you would have to think has been communicated to the Trump team, because Saylor is a consultant with them on the strategic reserve, etc. Michael Saylor's game theory recommendation is that the United States demonetize the gold of other nations by doing what Cynthia Lummis, Senator for Wyoming, is saying to do, which is to revalue U.S. gold certificates and buy Bitcoin with them. And It's kind of interesting when you play. I didn't think of this when I watched that yesterday or today, but he speaks strangely about gold. He says it's historically it's been a store of value, and yeah, China's getting a lot of it. So now if we're in a trade war with China, and really what this is a currency war, a lot of people in the financial media are talking about Scott Bessent is here to destroy the yuan. Like, he's here to raise the dollar and destroy the yuan. Well, if China can strengthen the yuan with all the gold it's taking back, why would the US want gold to surge into the future? I mean, I don't know, but
the way he said that, first of all, the threat of the tariffs, we have a bunch of gold, physical gold now in New York or wherever he said. So that's one interesting aspect. They forced the gold to come here, and then we didn't even do the tariffs on it. So they technically didn't need to move at all. And then you talk about what you said earlier about Europe and their kind of role in the trade stuff. But then China, they've allowed them to buy gold, but nothing really else. And also the store of value comment he made, the first one he said was Bitcoin. It's becoming a store of value. And then gold historically has been a store of value. It's almost like the flippening of which is the store of value. I don't know. There's something there.
Yeah.
There's something weird there. And we still haven't been to Fort Knox. And I wonder if that's coming, like that's being timed. They seeded it a while ago, and we'll get there eventually. Maybe, I don't know. But do you want to play your clip?
Yeah, and you can let me know what. There's like 2 to 3 minutes here that I think are really good. I've got him on 1.25. This guy's great. He's a Bitcoiner, but this is not. He's not really talking about Bitcoin in this little section here.
Kind of looks like Alpha's brother.
These are the reason I like him is he's like us in the Bitcoin world or G Money, etc., where he's actually trying to apply first principles and figure out what is actually happening based on looking at what Trump and Bessent are doing, not based on him thinking he's smarter than Donald Trump. So I thought this was an interesting take here.
What's his name? What's his account?
British Hodl, HODL. I don't know his actual name, but British Hodl is what he's known as.
This goes completely against what everyone is saying, so bear with me here as we talk about this, right? Yields are going vertical all around the world, right? And so what President Trump has basically delivered here is credibility for the Federal Reserve if you have a worldwide bond market crisis to actually lower the yields and pump liquidity. He has at the same time delivered a reorganized worldwide trade deal with the U.S. becoming more and more powerful in that, which allows the U.S. to negotiate better terms with anyone else who is a U.S. adversary. He also gets collapsing inflation because you've got absolute fear in the market, oil prices going down, et cetera, et cetera. And the most important thing with this one-off price shock, right? Tariffs are a price shock, they're not inflation. With a one-off price shock, you've destabilized worldwide markets, you've set the bond markets off, you've got China's credibility is ruined, and at the same time, you've offered credibility to the Federal Reserve to pump liquidity and lower rates so that in the future, Q3, Q4, whatever, in the future, you can legitimately refinance the $6 to $9 trillion worth of debt based on the Federal Reserve and not just scaring the living shit out of markets worldwide. So you can have low rates, higher markets, and higher asset prices. And at the same time, the $700 to $800 billion of U.S. treasuries that China has been holding over the U.S.'s head has to be liquidated. They've been liquidating that anyway, right? But at this point, with the tariffs, you force them to actually drive that into the market even faster, which in essence, over the long term, yeah, right now it looks damaging and against the agenda, but in the long term, actually defangs China because they hold less power. Because if they're going to be making less they're going to be getting less of a trade deficit advantage, which means they can't buy as many treasuries, which means that if they dump their load onto the market at this point, they're now less powerful in the future to hold a grip over American capital markets and American liquidity. Well, you get all of that done by doing what? Driving the treasury yield as high as possible. Think about it.
So you get the point, but I mean, sounds like he's been listening to the Power Hour from a couple weeks ago, but it's essentially everything we've been talking about. But this game, what I found interesting about that is he's not the only one. Like, we've been trying to put the pieces together ourselves from our kind of InfoWar lens and devolution lens. You've got Bitcoiners trying to put it together from like a Bitcoin lens. And it seems like those are the only two angles of approach that have gotten toward the same conclusion, which is that could Trump get both things at the same time? And nobody in Normieville is getting that. Nobody in the financial markets is understanding that. And I kind of think that that's why Trump is kind of having this funny energy about how he's communicating, where he's like joking about this is a good time to buy while he's also crashing stuff and raising it. And, you know, like, I think that they're scaring, ironically, they're not only going to do what's good for Main Street, as Besson's been talking about, they're scaring a lot of the worst people out of markets. And, a stat that we haven't talked about on this show, because I think it came out a couple days ago, was when this market panic hit, U.S. retail bought $4.7 billion worth of stock on the crash, which is the highest single day retail purchase ever, right? So if that doesn't tell you that the American people trust what Trump is saying and completely distrust what the financial experts are saying, I don't know what does. Like, people are buying the dip while all the financial experts are selling off and getting out of the market.
It's also interesting too, and you kind of alluded to this at the beginning, but even when it comes to like influencers, how many influencers with Trump, with what he's doing, have kind of waffled on him? It kind of exposed their true inner con inkness over this. Like, oh, Trump is so stupid. Trump has no idea what he's doing. Even like, I think it was his name, Dan Ackman or something. John Ackman?
Bill Ackman. Yeah.
Bill Ackman.
Like former liberal turned fake Trump guy.
Yeah. Well, just a couple days ago, he's like trashing, was it Lutnick? And like, all these tariffs are so dumb, all these things, whatever. And then today's like, Trump is, trust the deal, art of the deal, best man ever. They don't know they don't understand it. They're just trying to be right with whatever's going with momentum, So like, oh, momentum's bad. I'm going to be right and trash Trump. Then it comes back. Momentum's good. I'm going to be right. And Trump's been my best friend forever. These people have no actual integrity or principles, and they honestly have no idea what the hell is going on. And not saying that we do, but I feel like we're closer to the target.
We're trying to.
Yeah, we're at least trying to. I do have
but the key there, John, I just want to say the key to what you just said is our our prerequisite, our assumption is that Trump and those around him actually know what they're doing. And the reason we keep getting closer to figuring out what's going on is that assumption is correct. Whereas these people, even if they like Donald Trump, they assume genuinely that he is an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, that seems to be a big part of it.
I want to get to our next sponsor, but I just have a thought, and I don't want to lose it. When we talk about Russia, Putin, and Ukraine, like these other countries, in terms of the war, the actual wars, or I shouldn't say actual, the wars we're being told are going on, and how they already have these peace deals negotiated, and we're just waiting for certain things to fall into place for them to be accepted or whatever. Maybe it's just the narrative side of things we're waiting for. But think of this. What if all of these tariff deals, all these 75 countries, even everything we see going on between Trump and China and whatever, all the tariff deals have already been negotiated, save for a few countries. And we're just playing out the narrative of Trump implementing the tariffs and all these things just for the benefit, maybe the lack thereof, of the mainstream media and these financial professionals. And the tariff stories that we're seeing are getting everybody to freak out and have no idea what's going on and kind of exposing a lot of people. What if these deals are already agreed to, just like Trump and Putin, and we think that deal's already agreed to, and we're just playing out the story to get the narrative play in the meantime? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that that's entirely possible. And one thing that it makes me just wonder is, do you need? I think what Trump has demonstrated in just a few days, even to a lot of Normieville, is, does the United States require trade deals with other nations? So another way of putting what you just said is, a done deal in this context can simply mean the Trump administration already knows what it is going to do with each respective country.
Oh, for sure.
Like going forward. And it doesn't really matter whether or not a deal is done from that side of the ledger. And that's why we're seeing, like, I don't think, even though they're framing it, as you said, for the narrative, as they're going to come to the table and we're going to like go back and forth, like, that's not what's going to happen. They're going to go to the table. Vietnam's going to the table to sign a deal that Scott Bessent and Donald Trump are going to say, you sign this fucking deal, or else we do it again tomorrow. You get the hose again tomorrow. So it's kind of the same way of what you said, right? You don't even have to think that the deals are done. Our deals are done, and that might be all that matters.
That's a good point. That's a great point. Yeah. You're probably more right than my speculation, but it just makes you wonder. I mean, even when it comes to Xi, some of the bigger speculative aspects, and we kind of already discussed that. So let me get our next sponsor in, and then we can get to the next story. I don't think I had any other clips or anything I wanted to play.
All I had was, I don't know if you wanted to play it, but I just got like a short one from Bessent, kind of the Main Street, Wall Street thing. I don't know if you saw that.
Why don't you play that, and then we'll do our sponsor, and then we'll...
I think this is a good sum up. And, this hits normies fine, but given the context of what we're trying to figure out, and obviously, as Don and I said, we don't know. Like, we're just trying to figure this shit out. But think about this from kind of the game theory perspective as well, of what Bessent is saying.
For too long, financial policy has served large financial institutions at the expense of smaller ones. No more. No more. This administration aims to give all banks the chance to succeed, whether it's JP Morgan or your local mortgage and loan. It aims to get capital to Americans who need it by getting bureaucracy out of the way. For the last 4 decades, basically since I began my career in Wall Street has grown wealthier than ever before, and it can continue to grow and do well. But for the next 4 years, the Trump agenda is focused on Main Street. It's Main Street's turn. It's Main Street's turn to hire workers. It's Main Street's turn to drive investment. And it's Main Street's turn to restore the American dream.
It's our turn. Would you call us Main Street?
I think we're all Main Street. And again, that I would just add to what Bessent said there. Think of that in the same context as a record retail buying of the stock market. So they're not going to crash the stock market to buoy Main Street, and that has been the binary that we've been locked in for generations. Either Wall Street is doing well or Main Street is doing well. And I think what he's saying there is that Main Street's going to come back and be able to participate in Wall Street.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, let's do our next sponsor, and I believe we got Field of Green's lean. I hope they didn't change this ad read too. What'd you say?
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on. I'm gonna put my glasses on for this one. Just make sure. It was a rough reading day. I had to record. I had to record my show this morning, and I had to play it a lot earlier than normal, and I was just stumbling over myself. It was brutal. But anyway, okay, we got lean here. Are you a yo-yo dieter? You diet, lose weight, but gain it all back, plus a few extra pounds, and later you lose it and regain it again and again. It's dangerous. Studies show that it can increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and other health problems. Breaking free of your yo-yo diet pattern is the main reason doctors created lean. Lean is a supplement, not an injection, and you don't need a prescription. The science behind lean is impressive. Its studied natural ingredients target weight loss in 3 powerful ways. Lean helps maintain healthy blood sugar, helps control appetite and cravings, and it helps burn fat by converting fat into energy. So listen, if you're tired of losing weight and gaining it back, if you want to lose meaningful weight at a healthy pace, Lean was created just for you. Let me get you started with 20% off when you enter John20 at takelean.com. That's code John20 at takelean.com. Nailed it.
Pretty good.
Knocked out of the park. Okay. I should probably leave these on because I'm doing a lot of reading on this next story, but these are so damn dirty. What the hell? Oh, Mrs. Bright messaged me and said for the comment earlier about the hotel rooms being blocked out, it's because we have them all. We looked at the whole hotel, and the block code or whatever doesn't go out until tomorrow when you get your link. If you have
you have to find G Money on a shadowy corner and answer 3 riddles about Bitcoin, and he will provide you with a room.
Yeah. I don't know if that's quite.
That's how it goes.
Actually, no, hold on. Let me double check something, because if I'm not mistaken, I don't think G Money is going. No, he's going to be at Plymouth.
Is he?
No, he said he's 50-50 on Plymouth now, didn't he?
Jeez, he's
didn't I see that
on everything now.
Yeah, I don't remember. But hey, so for those who don't like G Money, Plymouth might be the conference to go to.
I'm like, don't tell them that. They're not going to want to come. They're like, wait a second. You have a point.
Yeah.
G Money might not be there, guys. So get your tickets.
He might be out for Deadwood too. I don't think he went to last Deadwood because his son was in college. I think it might be more the same this time. I don't know. But there we go, guys. Okay, this story is notable. We've been talking a lot on Powers for years about the election fraud system, the election fraud apparatus, how it needs to be fixed, how it hasn't been fixed, how Trump won an election, and he won it because he was basically allowed to. Like, they allowed him to win because they knew they couldn't get away with it narratively. They knew they couldn't without exposing their own system. Actually, tomorrow on my show, I'm going to have my first congressman on. It's Representative Clyde, I believe, and I'm going to ask him about this. Like, so you're fraudulently elected. Like, when are you going to fix our Like, I'm not going to say quite like, I'm going to be a little more professional political, but I'm going to ask him about it because we haven't seen any movement. We had the executive order from Trump, which is a start, but we've been waiting for tangibles, stuff we could look to see what happens. Yeah. There's an article that's come out, and I talked about it on the show this morning. We're going to kind of dive deeper into it now because this article, it touches so many aspects of things that I've gone through on my Devolution series. And so we can tie it back to that. But these are actuals that are going on behind the scenes that nobody's really talking about that are super impactful, I think. And then we also have the Chris Krebs thing from today that Trump put out that kind of wraps it all in a nice little bow. So this is from CNN, came out at 5 a.m. Eastern this morning. And
this would have been the biggest story of the week, like a few months ago.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. But Trump is dismantling election security networks. State officials are alarmed. And we could literally read through this whole thing. I guess it's kind of a long one, but I had it highlighted earlier, so no, not enough to guess. But anyway, I'm going to read through some of it, and then we'll start skipping through. So Misha Pride, then the mayor of South Portland, Maine, was greeting voters early on election day when police cars suddenly swarmed outside the city's community center with lights flashing, possible shooting, blah, blah, blah. They determined it was a hoax. The attacks on Maine and elsewhere across the U.S. had minimal impact because of strong preparation and quick work by an information sharing and analysis network of hundreds of federal, state, and local election cybersecurity and law enforcement officials. But now, key parts of this network, much of it built over the past 8 years, are being systematically dismantled by the Trump administration and Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, a CNN investigation has found. Just funny, the word CNN investigation.
Well,
it's hard to believe they do those things.
Already, there's not much here seemingly, but the way that this whole thing was framed up, that John had sent it to me earlier today, I just find so interesting because, you know, one of your big points of bringing this up is to say, hey, look at this thing flying under the radar when it comes to the central narrative. But what's funny is that this is telling you that the establishment, the regime, they're very worried about what Trump is or isn't doing with the election system. That's why they've got investigative teams on it.
Yeah, well, you say this isn't really anything. Yeah, we haven't gotten to it yet. This is big.
Oh, yeah,
there's
that's what I meant.
A ton of stuff here. But yeah, they're freaking out, and it's because Trump is directly going after all the key things we've been talking about for a while that has basically created this election fraud system. And this is why when it goes back to 2016, I still don't think that they just like turned off the fraud. I don't think the fraud apparatus existed in 2016 like it did in 2018 and 2020 especially. But anyway, you'll see what I'm talking about as we go through here. And is this zoomed in enough? Should I zoom in more?
A little bit more. There you go.
Right there? Okay. In early February, Musk's team laid off 130 staffers at the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, including 10 regional security specialists who worked with local and state election officials. The Trump administration is also advancing plans to strip civil service protections from 80% of the remaining CISA workforce, potentially allowing them to be fired for political reasons. Attorney General Pam Bondi that month disbanded a key FBI task force charged with investigating foreign efforts to influence elections. She also left in the wind the fate of another FBI task force that investigated threats against election workers in polling places. Kristi Noem and DHS canceled funding for national information sharing efforts. And then we have those moves come as Trump has appointed to key position officials who embrace his false claims of widespread voting fraud. And as Trump has cashiered the head of the National Security Agency and the U.S. Cyber Command. So that coming in conjunction with this is also interesting, who was involved in countering Russian interference in the past elections. The fact that they frame this as them countering, anytime they say countering Russian interference, this is our intelligence agencies perpetuating the narrative of election fraud themselves. Like that's what that is.
Yeah. And defending, you can look at that as fortifying the election, right? The infamous. This is when they use that framing. Countering Russian interference means defending the globalist fake election system.
100%. I'm going to skip down a little bit. They're saying they've gotten far off mission, then you're reining the agencies, all these things. It's alarmed state officials who warn the next round of elections will be seriously imperiled by the cuts. So this is where they're freaking out. Like he's dismantling our system. A bipartisan association representing 46 secretaries of states and several individuals' top state election officials have pressed the White House about how critical functions protecting election security will perform going forward. Okay, let's go down to here. The agencies under siege. And these are going to be very familiar. And you know what? I should have probably gone through my series and picked out a couple of these things but I'll do it on the fly. We'll be fine. Much of the election security system now under siege by Trump was created during his first term in the wake of the 2016 election. That being the election they never wanted to let happen again, right? Obama, when he was outgoing, and they talk about it here. I'll just keep reading. After the U.S. intelligence community determined that Russia and its proxies had engaged in hacks, disinformation campaigns, and direct cyber attacks against voter registration systems and election offices, largely seeking to help Trump, of course, the outgoing Obama administration declared the election system as critical infrastructure in January of 2017. We have talked about that a ton. That was Jay Johnson, the head of DHS, who made the switch. And it was January 7th, I believe, of 2021, like right before he was outgoing. And doing that is what led to the creation of CISA and all the BS that has happened since then. So this was a critical move. And being critical infrastructure, you remember back to General Nakasone. I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. Ezra Cohen-Watnick has kind of got me convinced he's not good. Would love to have you on the show, by the way, Ezra, if you happen to be watching. But he's the one who said that
now.
an attack on our critical infrastructure would cross the threshold into war. So he was discussing that in the context of our elections. So he said, if a foreign country were to somehow attack our election infrastructure, that would be considered an act of war. That's huge.
And we've said it a million times, but bears repeating that one of the Trumpian figures that's remained the most on signal about elections from the start is General Michael Flynn. And when you look at that line about the outgoing Obama administration, it's lines up perfectly with the way he frames it in particular, which is all about a counterinsurgency. We were dealing with a counterinsurgency. Now, obviously, he uses that in many different contexts, but as you're saying, an attack on election infrastructure is deemed an act of war. Well, Flynn he seems to be referring to this kind of behavior, these kinds of outgoing actions.
Yeah, this is for my part 9. This is a quote from Nakasone. Nakasone said, a cyber attack from another government on U.S. critical infrastructure would cross the threshold into war, and we would certainly respond. U.S. government's definition of critical infrastructure expanded in January 2017 when the Department of Homeland Security put election systems in that category, which is exactly what we're talking about. So back to this. That fall, Trump's first FBI director, Christopher Wray, established the Foreign Influence Task Force. What an awesome name for a task force. Much better than the declassification task force that Anna Paulina Luna heads up. And by the way, is just as bogus. Sorry, man.
Speaking of, Only Lands last night was one of our most professional shows we've done. If anybody wants to see that one.
A lot of racism took place. A lot of midget jokes. Yeah, I don't know if professional is the way I would put it, but we did a show last night.
We had one Mexican-ish guy on there, so I think we're shielded from pretty much everything that was said.
It was about what you would expect a show called Only Lands to devolve into, for sure.
Narrative shielding that we provided ourselves in advance.
It was awesome. Anyway, the task force was to identify and counteract malign foreign influence operations, including those aimed at U.S. elections. Trump signed into law the CISA, creating CISA. Their whole goal was to protect the country's critical infrastructure from physical and cyber threats. From the start, that included election infrastructure. And I can't remember if this even mentions Chris Krebs. I think it does. But more recently, CISA has come under fire from Republicans over the COVID stuff. We'll skip down. It's part of a broader right-wing effort to dismantle the networks that existed to correct the record on the 2020 election and push back on false information on elections. Hold on. And you know what? Maybe I should... Well, here's another actual that's taking place. NOMA has ordered CISA in February and March to cancel more than $9 million in contracts with the Center for Internet Security, a nonprofit group. Many of the cuts imposed by DHS targeted the Elections Infrastructure Information Sharing and Analysis Center, or the EIISAC, which brought together more than 1,300 election and law enforcement officials around the country. And if you guys remember my part 11, I'm going to scroll down a bit here. But this is a huge one because it's the EIISAC and the Center for Internet Security, which you'll see right here. Center for Internet Security, right? They're the ones who partner with the EIISAC to make all this election cybersecurity, the cybersecurity suite, free to all state and local elections. And they're the ones that partnered with CrowdStrike to run their EDR services. This would be a great time to go through and refresh yourself on this article. CrowdStrike, the same company that signed contracts with the DNC and the Clinton campaign, Mark Elias, those guys, they were running. I guess Mark Elias was part of, not CrowdStrike, Perkins Coie, who was negotiating the contract. CrowdStrike, they're the ones who ran security on our election machines, and have been
we've
since.
We've got almost every name, not just literal human name, involved in this op coming back up in the narrative, but the agency, I mean, not the agencies, the entities that were involved, right? So we've got Perkins Coie coming back up in different context. We've got all the usual suspects coming back up, and what I had said to John earlier today, I kind of said to lead into this is I think it's as signal to us as it is to them, the bad guys, which is why there's a note of panic running throughout this CNN piece in the current day. Because while the main central narrative is focused on trade wars and tariffs and economy and stock market and all this, right? And that's what all Trump's public deployments are all about. As you said in that segment, those deals are done. The demeanor of Trump and everybody, that they know that this is all going the right way. The real players in the deep state, they're not worried about that. They're worried about this stuff. And, you're kind of getting some of those notes in here.
For sure. And if you think of what this did, especially in 2020, because that's the key one. That's the one we keep saying. Trump keeps saying it was fraudulent. We got to get to the bottom of it. All of these things, the task force, everything, it was all about protecting the narrative of Joe Biden winning the election. That I mean, not only did they do the mail-in ballots and all that stuff, but the narrative was so important. They censored so many accounts, and they pushed their own narrative that the most secure election in history. And this is how they got away with it. The mainstream media was all in on it. Everybody was all in on it. They're dismantling the narrative and some of the actuals too, whatever actuals existed. But the narrative element of this is disappearing in front of our eyes with these moves, and nobody's talking about it. It's crazy.
Exactly.
And then we can go to this. You know what? I should probably find a clip. Let me find the clip of Trump.
Which also makes you wonder, was this like major headline? Was it given major headline treatment on CNN?
It came out at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I didn't come across it. So when I'm doing prep for my show, I go to every pretty much major fake news network and just like look for. I didn't come across this. I came across this like an hour later when I think it was Chris's feed. That's one feed we checked too. So I wouldn't consider it to be major. I don't know.
Well, what I meant by that is that it's not being amplified by the fake news media. In other words, they're not trying. It doesn't seem like they're trying very hard to create a narrative out of this, which is why I'm always just curious and gaming out what is the narrative intent of the writers here. We know what they're trying to say in this deployment. What I more mean is, who is this for? Who is this story for? If they're not pushing it, and if other media outlets are not really picking it up, then clearly it's not meant to be this massive scandal that they're trying to seed into Normieville. So who is this signaling to is what I'm always curious about. I don't know the answer to that, but it kind of feels like some inside baseball among deep staters going, hey guys, you might want to take a look at what they're doing over here.
Yeah, well, think of this, okay? If Trump does what we think he's gonna do and fixes our elections, what does the next election actually look like? Where a Republican candidate, maybe it's Trump again, who knows, wins
4 scoops,
85% to 15% or something ridiculous. Like, I have no idea what the actual breakdown in this country is. I know there are mentally challenged and people with mental health problems who vote for liberals. Okay, there are people that actually believe in those policies. I do not think it is nearly as many people as they say it is. I don't know what the actual numbers are.
I also don't think there's nearly as many voters in general.
That could be true. We have no idea what.
That would be interesting to see.
That's the crazy part. We have no idea what it looks like. But let's say Trump actually fixed our elections somehow, and as Ash has always advocated for, we move to some sort of blockchain voting system. Is she in the chat? She's gonna freak out.
I think didn't Scott Presler fix all this?
Not yet. We're just like 5 more registrations, and we'll get there.
Of Amish.
So, yeah, if you guys just donate today to Scott Presler, we can fix our elections too. Okay, but my point here being, if he actually fixed our elections, whatever the next result looks like, it's not going to be good for the Democrats. And if you look at the framing of this right here, Trump is attempting to exert more control over the election apparatus. They're trying to reframe it in a way that's like, Trump is the one that's committing fraud in the next election, because there's no way we can get this kind of outcome. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what.
That's actually a good point, because they need this. This is one of the reasons that Trump and company.
What do you mean? Actually, a good point.
Yeah,
you didn't need actually. In there.
They need the story of massive. I think they need actual massive wins economically. All the way down, all the way across the board in this term, and I think that they're going to get that. But what I more mean is they also need they need the public narrative to be that the second Trump administration is absolutely fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Because it also helps disarm this kind of seeding. I don't think this kind of seeding is going to be very effective either way.
No.
But what you want to have happen is when there is an insane red wave like you describe in 2028, whoever that's for, you want there to be no doubt in most Americans' mind of what happened here. You want it to more look like it was a surge based on all the accomplishments of Trump 2.0, and then it allows the retroactive disclosure of how fake our election system has been.
Yeah, and this right here kind of sums up the last line of the whole thing. I'm worried that there are folks in the state and federal government who want to completely dismantle the election security infrastructure. So they're framing this as Trump is removing any form of election security. We're going to go from the most secure election in history just a short 5 years ago to the most unsecure, whichever. What is it? Unsecure.
It's probably insecure too, because it's like it keeps getting talked about in disparaging terms.
So not very confident in itself. I get it.
Right.
Yeah. So both insecure and unsecure, the most insecure and unsecure election in history.
Right. Trump's going to give elections a glow up, big glow up. They're going to feel great about themselves.
But they're going to call it a glow down.
Right.
I don't even know if that's a word. But here, let's watch this video, because this is the biggie that goes in conjunction with this, talking about CISA and the most secure election in history. Check this out.
Chris Krebs, the former head of CISA. This is a man who weaponized his position against free speech in the election context, in the context of COVID-19. A presidential memorandum to the one you just signed.
What's going on?
He might have, and further instructs your Department of Justice, other aspects of your government, to investigate some of the malign acts.
How disappointed he looks.
While he was still head of CISA.
He's not mad. He's just.
This is another one. I don't know that I met him. I'm sure I met him, but I didn't know him. And he came out right after the election, which was a rigged election, badly rigged election. We did phenomenally in that election. Look what happened to our country because of it. Open borders, millions of people coming into our country. Russia and Ukraine, that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. Afghanistan, the way that they withdrew with 13 dead, but so many killed, actually. I mean, so many killed outside of the 13 soldiers, hundreds of people killed. And maybe, I don't know, never mentioned, but I mentioned it, 42 or 43 people so badly injured, the legs, the arms, blown off, the face. And this is all because of a incompetent group of people that preceded us.
Chris Krebs is responsible for blown off faces. We're going to just keep that in mind. We're going to listen to this whole thing, though. But guys, if you wouldn't mind doing us a favor, hit that thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. And it takes minimal effort to do that. I've tried it before. It's very minimal effort. Whether you're watching on your phone or your computer or whatever device you can watch us on, just hit the thumbs up. I'm pretty sure you can do it on the TV too. So
you can.
You sitting in your lounger, watching on the Roku, whatever. I know you're listening right now. You can hit that thumbs up too.
And that would have never happened. And this guy Krebs was saying, "Oh, the election was great. It was great." Well, it's been proven that it was not only not great. When you look at all these lawyers and law firms that are signing, giving us hundreds of millions of dollars, it was proven by so many different ways in so many different forms, from the legislatures not approving to the that worked from all of the different scamming operations. It was a very corrupt election. They used COVID to cheat. And we're going to find out about this guy, too, because this guy's a wise guy. He said, we've been proved this is the most secure election in the history of our country. Now, this was a disaster. And frankly, we should go to paper ballots, same-day voting, voter ID, and one other thing, you should get a little certificate that says you're a citizen of our country. You get a citizen piece of paper, it says you're a citizen before you can vote.
For $5 million.
You want voter ID and you want paper ballots, and you really want same-day voting. If you don't have same-day voting, they decide to change the air conditioner. Oh, we're fixing the air conditioner. Let's move all these boxes. We'll bring them back in a few days, and then they don't bring back those boxes. We got to have safe elections, we have to have borders. Ideally, we have to have a free press, which we don't have. We don't have a free press. We have a very dishonest press. This is an honor. We're going to find out whether or not he was right. This was a disgraceful election, and this guy sat back saying, well, I'm a member, or like he's a Republican or something, and almost right from the beginning. And he's tried to make the case that this election was a safe election. I think he said, this is the safest election we've ever had. And yet, every day you read in the papers about more and more fraud that's discovered. He's the fraud. He's a disgrace. So we'll find out whether or not it was a safe election. And if it wasn't, he's got a big price to pay. And he's the bad guy. There's another one. I have no idea who he is. Krebs.
But I hate him.
No idea who he is. I'm sure he was in the room at some point, just like you're all in the room, but I have no idea who he was. So
This is so funny. Like, I would love for him to at one of these just be like, because this is the title of the actual order he signed, addressing the risk from that motherfucker Chris Krebs. Like, because he's the guy.
What's also impressive about Trump is that he never forgets what he was originally talking about.
Oh, I know.
He keeps going on the weave until he comes back. And many stories were told in that weave. He managed to hit everything. He's like, you're a bunch of cucks.
He could have just went from like, this one's great, Chris Krebs sucks, and he was responsible for a stolen election, and he could have been done with it. But no, he had to say that in like boxes, 30 different ways.
Air conditioning units, all
Talk
kinds
about
of
people's pets' heads falling off. Like, yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Right.
I do want to come back to read a part of this actual memorandum here, but I want to play. Oh, Ash made a clip actually. I want to play it. It might involve some of what we just watched, but it's a minute long, so hold for processing.
Government and industry representatives from the election security community issued a joint statement reflecting a consensus perspective that the 2020 election was the most secure in U.S. history.
We'll see how it all works out. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So we'll see.
Krebs, the former head of CISA. This is a man who weaponized his position, further instructs your Department of Justice, other aspects of your government, to investigate some of the malign acts that he participated in while he was still head of CISA.
This guy Krebs was saying, oh, the election was great. It was great. Well, this has been proven an honor. We're going to find out whether or not he was right. He's the fraud. He's a disgrace. So we'll find out whether or not it was a safe election. And if it wasn't, he's got a big price to pay.
While elections are sometimes messy, this was a secure election.
Great.
Saying he would make a better Severus Snape than the black dude that they cast as Severus Snape.
They casted a black dude?
Yep.
No.
Yeah. It's like a straight up humiliation ritual.
Show me. Prove it.
Nothing against Cam Cooksey. I'm just saying, you can't be Snape, man.
Why didn't you say JB White too? Not there yet?
Yeah.
This Florida Gators just won, man. I haven't even texted him congrats yet. I thought Duke was going to win. Not that I like Duke, but
what a Florida Gator is.
Ash says that took me a long time to edit that video. See, anybody can edit videos. It's great. You did great, Ash.
I don't know how to do it.
Except for you, BB. You could barely run a stream.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm shocked that I can run a stream. Yeah, this is your new Severus Snape. Is this guy replacing Alan Rickman?
Crazy.
Very
what, I didn't know they're making a new.
Right.
What's this movie? What?
It's an HBO adaptation of the books, a full series. So everybody was all excited. The one fandom, which is also like the gayest fandom, like literally the gayest fandom, Harry Potter. It's the one that hadn't been completely taken over by the regime ruining all of it, and that allowed them to talk down to like Lord of the Rings fans and Star Wars fans and be like, you guys are always whining about this stuff, and they've been thrown for a loop because now Severus Snape is some African guy.
Cam Cooksey's in the chat running amok here. JB and CanCon are going to be a nuisance for the next year after that Gator victory. CanCon's always annoying though, so you get used to it eventually. What else here? Jack, you hate it.
Did you see this, actually, though? Speaking of this, you're not going to believe this.
Are Harry Potter fans old enough to be gay? That's from Brett Hour. That's a great comment.
That's a good one. More casting on the way for any of you who are interested in this, which I know is none of you. Meryl Streep is rumored to be playing Aslan, the male lion based on Jesus Christ, in the Chronicles of Narnia adaptation that is being directed by Greta Gerwig, the writer and director of the Barbie movie.
What is happening? Why? This is the problem with and I've said this so many times.
This
but
would be an onion. This should be a what's that other one?
Not the bee onion. Or the bee.
The bee. The Babylon Bee.
It could be, but this is the problem with Hollywood. Like they can't come up with any original content anymore. They just have to remake shit and make it worse.
But this is a humiliation ritual. That's what I'm saying. As if it wasn't enough of a humiliation ritual to make the whitest character in Harry Potter black. Like when I say whitest character, he is described as the colored-wise whitest person in Hogwarts. So that they make him black as a humiliation ritual. And now Aslan, the embodiment of Jesus, is going to be played by female communist Meryl Streep, who describes herself as a witch in real life. Now, the villain of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the witch. So
didn't she basically play the witch in the first movies? Like somebody looked just like her.
Was she?
No.
Oh, that was that androgynous looking girl.
Yeah,
what's her name?
Meryl Streep.
Yeah, I mean, Narnia.
Whatever. Anyway, just slightly off topic.
Tilda Swinton, who looks like the lead singer of Radiohead. She does.
Kind of does. He kind of does.
Anyway, just a diatribe about the casting stuff going on with Narnia and Harry Potter in between our election deep dive.
Yeah, I don't remember what I was going to do next, but I was going to read part of, because not only are they all the stuff we just talked about from the CNN article going on, when it comes to Chris Krebs, an aspect of digging into this is they're going to investigate him. I further direct the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security, in consultation with any other agency head, to take all appropriate action to review Krebs' activities as a government employee, including his leadership at CISA. Should identify any instances where Krebs' conduct appears to have been contrary to suitability standards for federal employees, involved the unauthorized dissemination of classified info, or contrary to the purposes of policies identified in EO 14149, having to do with freedom of speech. That's a big one, because he definitely did a million of those things. I direct a comprehensive evaluation of all of CISA's activities over the last 6 years, focusing specifically on any instances where CISA's conduct appeared to have been contrary to the purposes and policies identified in this executive order having to do with free speech. They're screwed with this review alone. Upon completing these reviews, the Attorney General and Secretary of Homeland Security shall prepare a report. So we'll probably get to the bottom of that. We'll have news on that in like 3 years, but at least it's happening. Or at least the story of it happening.
Ron Paul style happening, or just...
I don't know. Yeah,
soft.
Too early to know.
Right.
TBD. Mm-hmm. That might be all I got though in terms of stories.
Did you? Has anybody figured out what the quote horrible discovery is that Doge has made? Because that was a silly narrative.
It is. Yeah, Carolyn Levitt yesterday said.
Yesterday, right? Yeah.
It was yesterday that Doge is. I could find the clip. Hold on.
I've got it. Here.
Pull it up.
And then the president on Thursday told us that there was an incredible discovery that the Doge team had made. He called it horrible and incredible. Can you reveal that yet? Give us details on what it was about?
There has been a discovery. I hate to leave you hanging on a cliff, but I don't want to get ahead of the president on that. But I can confirm there has been a discovery. It's just not quite yet ready for release.
Discovery, everything is fake. Just like,
well, I mean, what could it be? Speculating, did they finally go to Knox and find there's no gold? Is it really going to be like this incredible discovery? Is it going to live up to expectations?
No, but it feels like it's going to be something that is real and that makes news. But her demeanor and everything almost felt like playful. Not like, oh, wait till you see this is some crazy shit. She's like, oh yeah, you're gonna love it. Like, you're gonna love what we find. So is it just something so absurd that it's
Yeah.
going to become really mimetic. I don't know. I mean,
Also,
strange.
it hasn't leaked yet, and that aspect of it is weird to me because so far from what I've seen, there's some 4 anonymous sources for everything ahead of time. So why isn't this one leaked yet?
Right.
Karen
Well,
Levitt knows. Other people know.
Yeah. But on that note, actually, the other thing I was going to say is that this shows you the narrative warfare stuff we talk about all the time, and Trump controlling the narrative, Trump's team controlling the narrative. As you just said, they know this. There's no real reason that the American people shouldn't know it right now. And I'm not even complaining right now. Their demeanor is like, no. The chapter right now, this week, is all about the stock market type stuff and the trade war, and that's what we're doing right now. And the Doge stuff, it's gonna come back. If you haven't noticed, Elon Musk, besides his little kerfuffle with Peter Navarro, he hasn't been making as many headlines in the last 4 days. The info war seems like a marathon, right? But it feels like he's a little bit silent running right now. And did they take him off the narrative stage a little bit to run out the tariff stuff? And then next week, he comes back and he's like, look at all this Doge stuff going on. It just, whatever the actual finding is, if there's an actual finding, I think it's far less about that. I think it's far more that a lot of what we're seeing at the advent of Trump 2.0, as you said about the deals, is simply an order of operations of translating what they want to translate to the American people, so that all of it gets absorbed. Because if you did just come right out and you're like, yeah, Doge and tariffs and this and that and this and that and election system, it's too much. I mean, we can't keep up with it. Never mind normies who don't follow this stuff.
For sure. That's a great point. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when we get it. But why delay too? There's got to be a reason for them teasing it and then waiting to do it. And I mean, that's kind of what you just said. But then why tease it in the first place? You don't need to tease it. So I don't know. Maybe there's a reason they're doing that other than just the timing of it. Right. I don't know. But we do have one more sponsor I want to get to here. It's 1775 Coffee. Play this real quick. Weak coffee is for the weak, and a Rumble Week has never been part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity. Just like 1775 Coffee, it's single origin, small farm, hand-picked, specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it matters. Forget stale, mass-produced beans roasted just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast hits like a Trump tariff. Medium roast keeps it bold without the bitterness. And Vitality Mushroom Blend, real energy and lasting focus, no synthetic garbage. For K-Cup pods, whole bean, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. Use code STUDIO for 15% off and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. Every dollar spent enters you to win a Cybertruck and $30,000.
Speaking of Elon.
Awesome.
And, actually, speaking of Elon and looping it back to our first topic, which was the tariffs, I have even seen Tesla maxis and, people in the alt media sort of theorizing that is Elon taking a little bit of a step back narratively right now because as this tariff stuff shakes out, Tesla stock, not financial advice, is probably going to outperform a lot of other stock when it comes to a trade war with China. And narratively, does that look good for Trump's key, co-lead in the central narrative? Because you know that the media is going to jump all over that, right? As soon as they can try to position any moves being made by Trump as benefiting Elon, I think there's a reason you're not seeing him comment too much on the trade war right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting point. And at some point he's got to disappear anyway. He's not going to be a special government employee forever. Mm-hmm. And there probably is a reason that they went on Hannity or whatever it was, Brett Baier, the whole team of Doge, hey, it's not just me, Elon. We got a whole team here of people.
Yep.
Because he's not going to be there forever. The Doge team might, but he might not. I don't know.
Yeah, to that point, I actually think if there's a reason he's not going to be there, we've largely agreed. I think that a lot of the Elon stuff he's a figurehead. I'm not saying that disparagingly, just the same way Trump's a figurehead. Elon delivered the Doge narrative in a way that only he could, just like Trump delivered the MAGA narrative in a way only he could. There's a lot of power to that, but it could be that, as we're already seeing with the trade war narrative, patriots, whoever's kind of writing the narrative, understands that there is a diminishing returns idea, and there may even be a damaging thing of keeping him at the front of all of this, because he does run what could end up being one of the biggest companies in the world. And do you really want him like at the forefront of Trump era narratives while he could be supposedly benefiting from all that? Usher him off the stage, as you said, graduate some of these other nerds up into the spotlight, and Elon gets to talk about his new cybercabs, which are supposedly coming out in June. So that's right around the corner.
Yeah, I got to show you guys this. So this is going to be, hold on. Because I was going to tell everybody, hey, get your GART tickets again one more time. One more reminder. By the way, after this GART, there's kind of an extended break between GARTs. So, yeah, get your tickets and get your fix. But I have a poll out there on my Twitter. I'm going to post it. I'll post in the link of this video, or the description of this video, and I'll post in the chat here. Let me just get it pulled up. But there's a survey that we have going on, because we want to not only figure out where we're going to go for next year, but also, these Badlands meetups that we've been doing, we want to come to a town near you. And I got to show you the results so far. So I think we had about 750 or so responses. And like, this is a small map.
And
like
750 locations.
Yeah, 750 locations. Like, this is like the heat map of it, of where the responders are. And so if you want us to come to your area with a GART, or for one of these meetups, this is a great way for us to figure out where the people are. So you got to respond to the survey. So I'm going to post in the chat right now.
Jersey area, you guys better all be coming to Plymouth. There's Plymouth tickets available still. I see some heat maps right around this New York, New Jersey, Philly. You can make the drive up there. I know the Jersey Turnpike is a little bit dicey.
Yeah. We have a lot in like the Georgia, Tennessee area too.
Yeah.
Up in Michigan.
Mrs. Brian and I were actually talking about, I think Ghost actually, given his civil engineering or whatever it was, architecture background, he's been telling us that Savannah, Georgia is like one of his favorite places. That might be one to look at.
Okay, I'm putting in the description of this video now. You may have to like refresh it to get it. And I also posted the link in the chat. So if you want us to come to an area near you.
Yeah, Dak, Nashville seems like that's top of mind among the only one with more power than John himself when it comes to GARTs. I think Nashville's probably going to be something that happens.
Yeah, Nashville's fun. As long as you don't stay in the Airbnb downtown next to a firehouse, fire station. They'll have a great time. Yeah, we should post this survey in the Substack as well.
Maybe. Oh, speaking of the Substack, I forgot to mention this earlier. Our whole show tonight, or a lot of it, was about the election system. Seth Keshel, Captain Seth Keshel, has written another guest post for Badlands Media that will publish tomorrow. That'll publish, what day is this? Thursday. So subscribe, badlands.substack.com. He's talking about the election systems and, whether or not, how fake is it? And what's the outlook from his perspective right now?
Yeah, it'd be great. He called me tonight, and I was with my kids doing bedtime and stuff. And so then I called him back, and he didn't answer. So his voicemail is great, though, but highly disrespectful. I don't know if we should publish that article anymore. He disrespects me like that.
Yeah,
it's a new get. But subscribe to the Substack anyway. Okay, guys. Let me show you. If you go to the page right now, like where you're watching this video, and you hit the refresh button at the top.
Did you not hit the thumbs up button, John?
I'm not that I'm not like that. I'm not going to like my own video. I'm going to let everybody else like it. In fact, normally I thumbs down it, just to make it.
That could be the difference between us getting to the top of the leaderboard. Wow.
Sorry, bro. Saturday I thumbs up, and Wednesdays I tend to not do that. But no, anyway, hit refresh, and if you just scroll down a little bit to the description box down here, there's the Survey Monkey. surveymonkey.com/r/badlands. Fill it out. I'm joking, guys. If I remember to, I'll hit the thumbs up. Somebody's mad at me in the chat. Steph Asia's mad. All right, let's do some rants. Or you got boosts?
I do, actually. Boosts, we got 1027 Phoenix sent $20 over. Couldn't post live. Thanks for everything, John BB and Ghost. This was for last week, but I don't think we read it. Thank you. Monty710 sent $50 over. Love you guys. Don't let anyone steal your joy or take the wind out of your sails. Thanks for all you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Monty. The wind is in our sails. Currently,
Fully winded.
I think. No, I slipped a disc.
Did you really?
Yeah.
How?
It's awful. Well, I did this months ago, and then randomly it just started hurting again. Probably from just carrying the baby around.
Yeah. That's how I think I messed up my neck like long ago, just carrying one arm, and then eventually
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
just
they
never
start to just like
come back.
slide out of your grasp as you're doing
Well,
other things.
I've never dropped a baby, so
Yeah, not yet.
true. I guess
There's
we'll
always
see what happens when I hold your baby in Massachusetts.
If he starts acting a little weird, you'll know what happened. No, that's a joke. That's a joke. No DCF. Joe Biden's football said, yes. $10. Speaking of bathroom breaks, when I'm in there, I try my best to avoid prolonged eye contact and focus on the task at hand, but Bay Theater Dave sure makes it hard.
Ooh.
Interesting. Shenanigans going on. A little
Very
strange.
interesting.
Lionheart, $50. Hey guys, the tariff wars are going pretty much how I envisioned them going. Although I suppose the decoupling theory you mentioned may be the biggest reason China is dragging this out. Yeah, I think that 2025, I did say this on a Power Hour months ago, not about tariffs, but about China, that they've been up on deck in the central narrative for a while. The Russia narrative has really run out of steam. The media is sick of talking about it. They're starting to percolate Taiwan back up in there. And if you were looking for narrative seeding of the battle space to kind of create public buy-in for China seeming desperate and like they might do something crazy, it would probably be now.
Could be.
Well, not now, but this year. So keep an eye on that. And then Mrs. PMS Terry Ann sent $17 over. Can't watch live, but I watch as much Badlands as I can fit in my day. DPH Wednesday and Saturday especially. I sent a message on your Contact Us page with an invite. Please find it and contact me. Not a scam. Elections are everything.
Who is that from?
All right. Mrs. PMS Terry Ann.
PMS in her name?
Yep.
Okay, can you send me a picture of that?
No, maybe.
I appreciate it. Okay.
Do you got rants?
Yep. Regarding this is from Melindy, $5. Regarding the election story, fingers crossed that Jovan's work/evidence from the Arizona forensic audit, which he continues to hold at large expense, will finally come to proper light. I agree. Noah1745, hey guys, I recently noticed the U.S. debt clock changed quite a bit, and I haven't seen anyone even mention it. Secondly, and most important, when can we expect tickets to go on sale for GART in Bangkok? Probably meant to say Bangkok. After last night's
sooner than you think
shenanigans. Let me look at the U.S. debt clock. Just a reminder about the U.S. debt clock, guys, that it has no affiliation with the government in any way. They just look at bills being passed and guess what it's. I don't even know what the website is.
It's actually comms, man.
No, not everything is a comm. Not everything everybody says is a comm.
That attitude.
Yeah, for sure, not that attitude. But I haven't seen any change. But yeah, if you dig around on here, I don't remember where it's at, but it says on here itself it's not affiliated with anything. It's just it's a website. So, but again, I guess we don't know who runs it, so maybe it is affiliate. I have no idea. Anyway, Mindy Q. I never even left the rant page. Whoopsie. Mindy Q, when you said the GART tickets are on sale, you just meant to buy or they are really on sale? Inquiring minds want to know. I have to pay tax on virtual tickets. Virtual tickets are on sale to Plymouth. Regular in-person tickets are on sale to Plymouth. Tomorrow, when we send out the link for the exclusive ticket holder live stream, you will also have a link to get the Deadwood tickets.
She meant, are they discounted? No, they're not discounted. Although Plymouth tickets are cheaper than Vegas tickets by quite a bit.
Yes. And yeah, so
by virtue of the venues, that's how it works.
They're not on sale. They're they're available to be purchased. Red Zeppelin. I love the name. That's what she said.
Nice.
Don't mean to offend you, PJ. Sorry, PJ Corrigan. Blue 7 Eye. That is not a language I speak, so don't know what that means.
That's Cyrillic.
But thank you. The Abe Theory. If you get offended by that's what she said, remember, we're literally in 5G war, so don't make it harder than it has to be, because DPH has always left me satisfied and smiling. That is a
Blue
great
7 Eye, what he sent, that's Jake. I remember him now. He's the Canadian who gave me the Russian nesting dolls, the Matryoshka
awesome.
dolls behind me.
Nice to see you,
And
Jake. Jake's always in the
he
chat.
sent in Cyrillic, that's what she said.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
So,
that's what she said. I'm going to get this tattooed on my arm somewhere, I think.
Yep.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jake. The Alpha Warrior Show. BB has such pretty eyes.
Thanks, Alpha. I love how I called that he had satisfyingly watched a white man do work on his property as a sign of his having made it in America.
That's true. You did call that.
I mean, I didn't think that was going to be an actual real thing, but it was. I mean, I can't blame him.
I can. Whatever. Funny, though. Yeah, last night's show was fun. It was fun. Got a little out of hand, but it was good in a good way. 1027 JS. Nice to see you, Joe. Thank you for the $20. Says DPH Wednesday. Thank you. JK Nerdy, off topic. But what are the intro and outro music clips for the Daily Herald? They're great. Yeah, I don't know. People made those for me, so I used them. Adam
I've
Riva.
never seen that show. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Adam Riva, he made the intro one, the little short intro one, and then I can't remember the name of the account now. I could look it up, but he made the outro, and they're great. Can you open this link?
Yeah, I did. It was a picture of the bison.
Oh,
team,
yeah.
Some sort of team visiting the White House.
Yeah, the
I
football
didn't wanna
team.
Show it on my.
I can pull that up.
Oops. Now
Yeah, so the NDC Bison won the national championship, and they got to go to the White House today. And here they are. And I was at the championship game. So that was fun.
Really?
Back in January.
Is that a comm? Do you think it's a John Herald comm?
This is definitely a Don Hill com. I just need to get like the red arrows and stuff in here, and then we're over target.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Chris Noel. She's from North Dakota. She's got some North Dakota blood. She was rocking the karaoke stage down in Vegas. So thanks for the rant. Kitsko, Trump admonished Chris Krebs on the EO signing session and talked election fraud and cover-up. He sure did. True deplorable election security improvements Trump was referring to in February 2020 was to catch them, make Krebs be the first domino. And then we got a CNN,
And I don't know if you saw the clip. I think it was yesterday, the day before, that Trump, in a different context, was like just generally talking about how we're gonna get them, we're gonna get everybody. Like drops those every now and again. I can't remember the context. Maybe somebody in chat has it.
Yeah, I have it. I think if. Hold on.
I gave the most vague reference.
I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. Something about we'll get them, or
This one.
It's going to be something, and I'm actually looking forward to the midterms. I really are. We're going to prove that all of their treasonous years of betrayal will not be forgotten, because it's treason. What they did is treason. When they allowed millions of people to pour in through open borders from all over the world, they came. To me, that's treason. What they've done to our country is unthinkable.
Was that the one?
It was. I think.
Nice.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I knew. Kitsko says, my guess, Ryan Routh, working for CIA Ukraine to assassinate Trump. That'd be an interesting one. I don't know how Doge would have been the ones to uncover that, but maybe. And then $2 from the expert. Don't make this harder than it is. That's what he said.
Sounds like a strange thing to say.
That's what she said. It's from The Office. Like,
nice.
Yeah. So thank you for that setup. And that's all we got tonight.
All right.
I know. Dang it! I was gonna pull up one of our old outro videos, but I don't have it.
Well, that's very
So
embarrassing.
do I have anything saved in here?
I had one last 25 minutes. Or no, we'll just show.
Great.
This gives John nightmares whenever I do this.
You're not actually doing a story
Haven't talked Russia in a bit.
What are you doing?
But I just thought this was cool. I'm just leaving a little nugget. We can talk about it next week. Russia comes out. I mean, you mentioned the Con Inc. people earlier. Russia supports direct U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. Ghost has been saying this. I don't know if he's been saying this publicly or not. He's certainly been saying it privately. I think he's onto something. When we talk about the Con Inc. brigade, it feels like they've stepped in something with all the Israel narrative. And,
well, Tim Pool. Tim Pool was confirmed yesterday. He was meeting with Bibi Netanyahu. He's not allowed to talk about anything he said. But he came out with that story for a reason. Like, he's getting ahead of something.
He's getting ahead of something. And I just thought that headline was interesting because it's like amidst the... remember how Trump was super pissed with Putin 2 weeks ago and things aren't going well there. And he was definitely all in on Israel and against Iran. And now Trump is with Netanyahu and he's like, yeah, we're going to actually talk to Iran directly. It's not going to be through back channels. It's going to be directly. And I think that's really good. And then Russia comes out and is like, we think it's really great that Trump is going to talk to Iran. So
well,
bit of a humiliation ritual about for Netanyahu there. And, I don't know. How's Ian Carroll doing this week about that?
I don't care.
Should be keep committing, Ian. Just keep going full bore into Trump the Zionist.
I love the Connie getting exposed, though. Yeah, you love to see it. Anyway, GP Shea says Spokane, Washington. There's a lot of Washington up there. We're gonna check it out. Petty429 gave a Gibson Go link. Stop and Go Lawfare. I think that might be it. I do have a video though now. So since we talked so much about election fraud, we're gonna do a throwback compilation video. I think it's a good one. So you guys have a great rest of your evening. Hit that thumbs up. We appreciate you. And I'll see you tomorrow on the Daily Herald, 1 p.m. Eastern, where I'm going to have Representative Clyde on, and we're going to talk about election stuff. So, and other things.
I'm going to be on the Guard stream for anybody who's going to be on the Guard stream.
I will have my kids, so I won't be on the Guard stream, but we should have a good crew. So, all right. Catch you later, everybody.
Peace.
What I've seen is so bad. She should not be allowed to run. And just in that respect, I say it's rigged.
People are discovering that the system is all rigged, that the voting is just pacification for the voters, and it really doesn't count.
You can run the best campaign. You can even become the nominee. And you can have the election stolen from you.
What the Democratic National Committee did meant this election was rigged. Yeah, I think it was.
Brazil describes how Clinton engineered a, quote, secret takeover of the Democratic National Committee.
We recognize the process was rigged.
1.8 million dead people are registered to vote, and some of them are voting.
Evidence of election fraud mounts as the mainstream media and Democrats loudly insist Joe Biden is still the 2020 winner.
Mail-in voting is fraud.
All of this now has casted what is real significant doubt on the integrity of the 2020 election.
I believe the alleged irregularities can be organized into three basic categories. Number one, lax enforcement or violations of election laws and controls.
I witnessed the room erupt in thunderous applause and derogatory cheering as Republican poll workers were picked off one by one and ejected from the room repeatedly by police escort throughout the day.
Oh, Trump. Fuck Trump.
2, allegations of fraudulent votes and ballot stuffing.
What's all these? Are these mail-in ballots or what's these coming in?
What are these? These are my on tape here.
What's that?
Am I on tape as well?
And 3, corruption of voting machines and software that might be programmed to add or switch votes.
The county clerk came forward and said tabulating software glitched and caused a miscalculation of the votes.
Public has only a small idea of the kind of evidence that we have.
This allowed fraud and abuse to occur on a scale never seen before, using the pandemic as a pretext.
The Department of Homeland Security says the 2020 election was the most secure in American history.
The most secure
The
in
most
American
secure
history.
in
The most
history.
secure
The most
in American
secure
history.
in
Most
U.S.
secure election
history.
in U.S. history.
It was the most secure election in American history.
If we are right about the fraud, Joe Biden can't be president.